and welcome to ENI UK and Europe edition. I'm Giancarlo Matera, reporting from London. We'll be bringing you news reports from around the United Kingdom and Europe this week. Also joining us live reporters on standby, ready to give their reports. First, our news headlines today. UK to trial 24-hour COVID-19 vaccines. Switzerland tightens restrictions to avoid a third wave. The pandemic causes a 5% economic downturn in Germany in 2020. But first, we go to our live correspondents we have with us. Joining us is Love Anne Season. Hello, Love Anne.
Hi. So today I'll report about how face masks are helping save lives in this pandemic, but how are they also becoming a threat to the wildlife?
Thank you, Love Anne. Also joining us live is Ashley Espiritu. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, Giancarlo. Thank you for having me. Today, I will be giving you an update on the lives of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and how they have recently chosen to quit and take a step back from their social media platforms.
Thank you, Ashley. Also joining us from EBC Belgium, we have Maria Dowsin. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Giancarlo. Today I will be giving an update on Belgium's current restrictions and are being implemented and extended until the 1st of March of this year.
Thank you so much, Maria. From our EBC Spain Bureau, we have a report by Catherine Arceo on a historic snowfall that they have there in Madrid, Spain. We will then, of course, end our show once again with our view from our window. And this week, it's coming from Saski Palace in Germany. And this will be shown at the end of our program. But first, our main news stories this week. UK to trial 24-hour COVID-19 vaccinations. Britain will make appointments for coronavirus vaccinations available 24 hours a day as soon as we can, said Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Wednesday, reversing his opposition to the initial idea. Johnson had just days before brushed off calls from the main opposition Labour Party for nighttime openings of vaccination centres, arguing that there was no clamour for it. But the government has come under increasing pressure to speed up its vaccination program and is now reported to be planning a pilot scheme to see if there is a demand for late-night jabs. AstraZeneca, manufacturer of the main vaccine being used in the inoculation drive, is imminently scaling up its release to 2 million doses of vaccines per week in Britain. The firm's chief executive said on Wednesday, Britain has so far given vaccinations to around 2.4 million of its vulnerable citizens, and the government has set a target of 15 million by the middle of next month. The country has been one of the hardest hit globally by the pandemic, with more than 83,000 people losing their lives after testing positive for the virus. It is currently mired in its third and worst wave of the virus, registering record daily case numbers and death tolls blamed on a new strain of the disease. Boris Johnson recently announced a third national lockdown until at least mid-February and is considering harsher measures still if the numbers keep rising. In Scotland, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, meanwhile on Wednesday announced the country would be stopping its click and collect retail services except for essential goods as part of the tightening of restrictions. Switzerland tightens restrictions to avoid a third wave. Switzerland announced on Wednesday that further measures were needed to contain the spread of the virus in their country. The authorities stated that it was no longer a question of what measures to put in place, but rather when to put them into place. In order to be ahead of the potential third wave and worsening situation due to the virus's new strains, the country decided to minimize social contact early on. It is extending the closure of restaurants, cultural establishments, and sports and leisure facilities until the end of February. Effective this coming Monday, stores providing non-essentials will close. Work from home becomes mandatory where possible, and private gatherings will be limited to 5 people. The authorities insisted that they are continuously looking at the interests of society and the economy. Financial aid to affected businesses is extended, and the country currently counts more than 490,000 infections since the beginning of the pandemic and more than 7,900 deaths so far. In December 2020, the country was the first in Western continental Europe to administer a COVID-19 vaccine using the product from BioNTech and Pfizer. This week, they also approved the Moderna vaccine. Pandemic causes 5% economic downturn in Germany in 2020. Germany saw in 2020 its biggest economic contraction since the 2009 financial crisis. The economic decline of 5% was not a surprise, as almost all economic sectors were markedly affected by the pandemic, according to federal statistic agencies. I also added that this downturn ended 10 years of the country's growth. The decline is slightly lower than what the German government had forecasts of 5.5%, but better than what other European countries have recorded in 2020. France, Italy, and Spain saw a downturn of 9.3%, 9%, and 11.1% respectively in 2020. The first wave of the pandemic initially caused the German economy to drop by 9.8%, but the economy recovered, expanding by 8.5% in the third quarter, before slowing down again following a resurgence of the virus. Germany's economy is driven by a robust industrial base, including the car sector and the machine makers. In 2020, online trade boomed, while physical retail trade declined. The hospitality industry also saw a dramatic plunge. Unlike during the first wave, the country allowed manufacturing businesses to remain open, which helped industrial orders to jump 2.3% in November, month on month, while manufacturing production rose 0.9%. Economy experts forecast that although the GDP will decline in the first quarter of 2021, it is likely that it should expand rapidly after that as the vaccination program is rolled out. German authorities forecast 4.4% growth in 2021 and 2.5% in 2022. It's time for a break now, but please come back for some more E&I UK and Europe edition.
Everyone's talking about income generation and expense management literacy from fiat money and digital money. In this week's episode of Open for Business, we will tackle wealth building and opportunities for small businesses in investing in the digital space, including the promise of Internet of Money. We will learn the insights of the author of award-winning and biggest Filipino bestsellers on personal finance and the pioneer and leading advocate of the personal financial literacy movement in the Philippines.
When there is no market, there is no supply, and there is no credit, we're back to zero. But we still need to survive, we need to eat, and we have to save for the future.
Mr. Francisco Colayco, the chairman and founder of the Colayco Foundation for Education, Inc., will join us in this week's episode of Open for Business.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Unique ang voice mo, napagaling mo.
You have a crystal powerful voice.
Ang galing. I really enjoyed your performance.
Isa na ang nakaabang sa January Finals. Sino naman kaya sa panibagong set of singers ang kakasa sa mas pinatinding hamon ng ating kompetisyon? Malalaman natin yan dito po sa biggest talent competition on Philippine TV and online. Ito po ang Tagig Senegalem Part 2 Singing Edition.
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe Edition. Now for some more interesting stories from around the United Kingdom this week. First, joining us, our live reporter, is Lavan Season on more details on how discarded face masks now pose a threat to wildlife. Hello, Lavan.
Hi, Giancarlo. So masks that are helping save lives during this pandemic are actually becoming a deadly threat for the wildlife, with birds and marine creatures ensnared in the staggering number of disposed facial coverings littering animal habitats. Single-use surgical masks have been found scattered around pavements, waterways, and beaches worldwide since the countries began making face masks compulsory in public spaces to slow the pandemic spread. Now worn ones, the thin protective materials can take hundreds of years to decompose. The biggest impact may be in the water. Aside from latex gloves and protective gear, more than 1.5 billion masks made their way into the world's oceans last year, accounting for around 6,200 extra tons of marine plastic pollution, according to environmental group Oceans Asia. Now in Britain, an incident captured headlines about a gull that was rescued by the RSPCA in the city of Chelmsford after its legs became tangled in the straps of a disposable mask for up to a week. It caused its joints to be swollen and sore. The animal welfare charity was alerted after the bird was spotted motionless but still alive, and they took it to a wildlife hospital for treatment before its release. Now macaques have been spotted chewing the straps of old tossed aside masks in the hills of Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. It is a potential choking hazard for the diminutive monkeys. A chief scientist, George Leonard, from US-based Ocean Conservancy, has warned of more risks. Let's listen in.
The mask and glove thing is particularly problematic because they can impact essentially the large animals, so sea turtles, seabirds, larger fish, right? Because these are larger items. They're not likely to impact, phytoplankton and zooplankton, the base of the food web. But the problem is the entirety of the food web is essentially at risk here, because when those plastics break down in the environment, like all plastics that break down in the environment, they form smaller and smaller particles. And those particles then can impact pretty much the entirety of the food web, from the smallest animals to the largest animals.
Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Lavan. This large quantity of face masks that you're mentioning that are being dumped to the oceans is really alarming. But we know that face coverings are not going anywhere anytime soon. So how can the public play their part?
Well, Giancarlo, there has been a shift towards popularity of reusable cloth masks. But we are still using the lighter single-use varieties. Now, campaigners are urging people to bin them properly and snip the straps to reduce the risks of animals becoming trapped. They also called on the government to increase fines for littering and encouraging for washable masks. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Lavan, for bringing out that very informative and timely news story. We look forward to hearing from you again next week.
Thank you, Giancarlo, for having me reporting from London, United Kingdom. I'm Love Ann Season, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, our next of our live correspondents is Ashley Espiritu. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, Giancarlo. Thank you. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have quit social media after growing disillusioned by the hate they have found on sites like Facebook and Twitter, a UK newspaper reported on Sunday. The couple were rejecting social media in both a personal and professional capacity as part of their new progressive role in the United States, the Sunday Times said. A source close to the couple told the newspaper they had no plans to use social media for their new Archwell Foundation and were very unlikely to start utilising platforms personally. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who moved to California last year after abruptly resigning from British royal duties, had previously had prominent presences online. They amassed more than 10 million Instagram followers to their Sussex royal account while they were working royals. But the couple have also previously complained about their treatment on social media, as well as in the British press. Meghan described past trolling of her as almost unsurvivable, while Harry issued an unprecedented statement in 2016 denouncing the racial undertones of comment pieces and the sexism and racism of social media trolls. Last year, they launched a wide-ranging non-profit organization, Archewell, after giving up their Sussex Royal brand as part of the terms of their departure from frontline monarchy duties. They have started other creative ventures, including signing a deal with Spotify to produce podcasts that tell uplifting and entertaining stories, which I reported on some weeks ago about their new podcast, Archewell. The couple also signed a multi-year contract, reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars, with streaming giant Netflix to produce impactful films and series. Meanwhile, Markle, a former television actress, narrated a wildlife documentary on Disney Plus in 2020. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Ashley. But to those who may be unfamiliar with the past news on the matter, what has been their reaction and statement from the couple for their treatment that they have felt on social media and in the press here in the UK?
Well, Giancarlo, it is no surprise to understand that the British press are known to be quite harsh with their words. The British press have even been accused of the death of Harry's mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, following her tragic car accident in 1997. Also, as I also said, Meghan described past trolling of hers as almost unsurvivable, while Harry issued a statement denouncing the racial undertones of comment pieces and the sexism and racism of their social media trolls. Royal editor Russell Myers, who spoke on the Rain show, said that they have spoken about them feeling isolated, Meghan Markle feeling isolated during her pregnancy, and after experiencing this abuse and as being the most trolled person in the world, she told Teenager Therapy podcast. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you so much, Ashley, once again for bringing us that news report this week.
Thank you for having me again, Giancarlo. I'm Ashley Spirity, BBC London correspondent, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, it's time for another break now, but please come back once more for some more ENI, UK and Europe edition.
Lee Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas! A one-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to explain our health outdoor
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Balang araw, magkikita-kita tayo! At sinisiguro ko sa inyo, yung inuupuan nyo, mauupuan ko din! Di ba remember nung nakaraang linggo? Ayaw nila sa aking tatlo, di kinausap ko nga yung may-ari.
Panibagong set of contenders ang sasabak sa hamon ng TNG stage for a once-in-a-lifetime chance to reach their dream.
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe edition. Now for some more interesting stories from around Europe this week. Joining us today from Belgium is Maria Dowson with an update on how the country's COVID-19 situation is looking. Hello Maria, how are you?
Hello, Giancarlo. Thank you for having me. As of Thursday, January 14, there are 2,637 new confirmed cases. Despite the huge improvement of decrease in the number of cases since October 2020, the Belgian government has not been lenient when it comes to the restrictions. Current restrictions were implemented since October 2020, originally until December 13 of 2020, but Belgium has announced to extend it until March 1st of this year. Some of the many restrictions that remain the same are the social distancing, mandatory masks, and current curfew between midnight and 5 a.m. Travels have also been highly discouraged, and those who do still want or need to travel abroad have to take into account the 3 types of zones, which are the green, orange, and the red zones. Teleworking is still mandatory. Shops are being open, whilst restaurants and cafes are only open for delivery. Although social distancing measures have not changed, households are only allowed to welcome one person in their homes. Belgium is also in full swing on their clinical trials for the available vaccinations. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you so much, Maria, for that report and for bringing us the update. Can you also explain to us the plan that Belgium has for their vaccinations?
As the 3 vaccines, namely Pfizer-BioNTech, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna vaccines, are on their full swing clinical trials, all those exposed to COVID-19 will be vaccinated as a priority. Furthermore, the Flemish Minister-President, Jan Jan Boom, announced that Flanders will be able to vaccinate all people who want to in Flanders before the start of summer. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you so much for bringing us that report today, Maria.
Reporting from Belgium, I am Maria Dowson for Eagle News International, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, we have a news report now from Madrid, Spain, on how they experienced a historic snowfall earlier this week. With the report is Catherine Arceo. Let's take a look.
12 years later, Madrid is back under white snow. Children, young people, older people, no one has let go of an unforgettable moment like the great snow that fell on Madrid in the recent days. The snow reached 60 centimeters thick in Madrid capital, and temperatures dropped to minus 12 degrees, something historic in Madrid. Although many people enjoyed playing and walking in the snow, the weather also brought some challenges to the city. Heavy snow resulted in cut roads, which pushed some drivers to leave their cars due to mobility difficulty. Flights had to be cancelled at Barajas Airport. Travel also in the direction of Madrid and Cercanías by train or AVE was disrupted. Some trees also fell due to the weight of snow. The weather also created issues in supermarkets in the city, as many goods could not be collected. Yet here we leave for you some views of this historic snowfall in Madrid and some beautiful memories that many Madrileños will keep with them. Reporting from Madrid, Spain, I am Catherine Arceo. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Catherine and EBC Spain, for that very historic and interesting report. We will end today's show once again with our view from our window. This week, we take a look at the palace and gardens in Germany. In the Sanssouci Palace is located in Potsdam, the state of Brandenburg. The palace is surrounded by a beautiful park. It means without worries. Frederick the Great drafted the plans in 1743 and built it in 1745 to 1747. Entry to the park is free, and it's a place for an excursion where you can go for a nice walk. These videos and photos are courtesy of Irene Juliet Arzadon from our EBC Germany Bureau. Thank you so much, Irene, for these wonderful views. So that's it for our news this week. We hope you stay safe and keep positive as we'll be bringing you new stories next week from around the United Kingdom and Europe. I'm Jakarta Matera, and we live in interesting times.
Ako po si Nonoy Zuniga.